It was the eve of Thanksgiving, 1971. A man dressed in black boarded a Boeing 727 with nothing more than a briefcase and a name no one would ever forget. He was silent, calm, almost invisible among the holiday travelers. Yet behind his dark glasses and measured voice, there was something unnerving. Something that would soon turn an ordinary flight into one of the most chilling mysteries in American history. Within hours, routine gave way to dread. A flight through the night, stitched with fear, shadows, and a storm that seemed to conspire with him. And then, nothing. No answers, only questions that echo through time. Who was he? Where did he go? And why does the truth remain buried more than 50 years later? Tonight, we descend into the darkness of a case that defies reason, a mystery that refuses to die, the chilling legend of a man known only as D.B. Cooper. The air grew heavy. No turbulence, no sudden drop. Just weight, invisible and suffocating, crawling into every breath. For the passengers, life was still ordinary. A child turned the pages of a picture book. A businessman adjusted his watch. Someone sighed, impatient for a landing that seemed routine. The hum of the engines filled the cabin with the comfort of repetition. But in the crew's eyes, there was no comfort left. They had seen inside the briefcase. They had read the note. And now, every second ticked louder, every gesture measured against the reality that somewhere, only a few feet away, sat a man holding death in his lap as if it were a newspaper. He did not shout. He did not wave a weapon. His voice was steady, precise, stripped of emotion. $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a refueling truck waiting in Seattle. Every word landed with surgical weight. No wasted syllable, no hesitation. It wasn't a demand. It was logistics, spoken the way an architect describes blueprints or a soldier lists coordinates. The flight attendants obeyed his gaze, carrying the words forward. The cockpit became the first fracture in reality. Pilots whispering codes into radios, their faces pale against instrument glow. The captain's voice reached the ground, where chaos exploded in silence. Seattle Police, the FBI, the bank. Midnight calls pulling men from warm homes into offices filled with fluorescent panic. Fingers tore open vaults. Hands counted stacks of cash under the suspicion of trembling fluorescent bulbs. Every bill had to be photographed, serial numbers recorded. $200,000, at once insignificant and unbearable, now became a ransom wrapped in procedure. And the parachutes. Why 4? That was the riddle scratching every skull on the ground. If he wanted only 1, the math was easy. He planned to escape alone. But 4? It twisted logic into paranoia. Did he intend to drag passengers with him, force hostages into the air, scatter suspicion so no one dared sabotage the parachutes? 4 was a number that multiplied fear. While the ground churned in frenzy, the cabin above was a theater of silence. The passengers knew nothing. They smiled politely at flight attendants whose faces were stretched tight around false calm. They asked for coffee. They spoke about the weather. They dreamed of turkey dinners waiting at the end of the flight. All the while, just a few rows back, Dan Cooper sat still as stone, one hand resting lightly on his briefcase, the other occasionally adjusting the rim of his dark glasses. He might have been anyone, a commuter, a salesman, a man waiting for a transfer flight, but the crew knew, the captain knew, the FBI listening through static knew, and it was his calm that unsettled them most. Rage could be negotiated, fear could be manipulated, but Cooper radiated something far colder. Control. Every gesture was small, rehearsed, precise. He drank his bourbon and soda with the casual elegance of a man watching a sunset, not a man orchestrating a hijacking. Minutes crawled. The sky outside blackened, rain streaking against the windows like scratches from an invisible hand. Inside, time seemed trapped, each second dragging behind it the gravity of what could happen if one mistake broke the rhythm. The crew glanced at each other in fragments of eye contact. Silent questions, silent answers, silent prayers. In the galley, a flight attendant tried to steady her breathing. She thought of her family, of the absurdity of serving drinks while a man with a bomb sat calmly in the back row. She thought of how his politeness felt like a mask stretched too tight, hiding something that might break through at any second. The captain's voice came back, low but steady, announcing procedures to the ground. Negotiations circled through radios. Money was being prepared. Parachutes loaded into vans. Fuel trucks moved toward the airport like predators on leashes. The passengers felt none of this. They sipped coffee, laughed lightly, adjusted seatbelts. The world above the clouds was sealed, and they were sealed inside it with a man who had bent an aircraft, a crew, a city, an entire government into his orbit. And still, he did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He smiled thinly, occasionally scribbled notes, occasionally tapped the edge of his glass. He existed in a space where fear belonged only to others. The flight attendant who first read his note returned to him, whispering, "They're complying. The money is being collected." Cooper nodded once, as if she had confirmed something inevitable. "Good," he said softly, with the weight of a man marking a box on a checklist. The plane hummed on. Engines devoured the night. Outside, the earth moved to meet his terms. Inside, silence reigned. The silence of passengers dreaming. The silence of crew pretending. The silence of a man who sat at the center of it all. His calm, more terrifying than rage. He was no longer just a passenger. He was the axis on which the night now turned. And everyone else, inside the plane, On the ground, listening across static, were only pieces orbiting the shadow called Dan Cooper.